The Miracle Perspective, showing you the person you are meant to be. It's finished.
It's the time of the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my friends. Let's go and be changed. TMP is doing the most. TMP is doing the most. It's the time of the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my...
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Miracle Perspective, and I'm your host, Miracle Chawania. I've got a very special guest with me today. I met this lady, I love the character. She's got that bubbly character that I loved. We were speakers at the BNC event where she was talking about interesting things, and I was like, you know what? I want these things on the channel for you guys, because I love you guys, you know? So I decided to talk to Carol, and I'm like, Carol, I want you on the channel. She's like, you know what? I'm there. Put me there. Tell me the date and the time. And we organized and we arranged, and today I have Carol Potgieter with me. Welcome to the Miracle Perspective.
Thank you, Miracle.
You said something to me that this is your first
Oh, yes.
interview.
Yeah.
Which,
First interview ever. So I am quite privileged to be on
Wow.
the Miracle Perspective. Thank you for inviting me.
for me, it's a privilege, because early this year, beginning of this year, the first interview I did was with my dad, and it was his first interview.
Wow.
And it made me feel so special because he's a legend. Now I'm interviewing another legend. Giving her her first interview.
I'll take that as a compliment.
It is,
Thank you very
definitely.
much.
Thank you so much, Carol, for taking on this interview. And I believe that we are going to have a very interesting time together because I want to get to know you and what you do.
Super duper.
So please introduce yourself to the people.
All right. Yes, Carol Potgieter. As Miracle say, now, how do I pronounce Potgieter? Well, anything that starts with pot, I just go with, because for some people it's very difficult. But I am a colorful person. If I can just start straight into who I am. Yeah. And that's why I love color. Color to me represents diversity, it represents fun, it represents something serious, something humorous. There's so much in it, and all of that is basically who I am. And I just, I love working with people. I love meeting new people. It was awesome to meet you, Miracle, as well, with all the other people. And I think from there you can also see I am a huge people's person.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
Definitely. And you said something on your profile that you love seeing the successes of other people.
Absolutely.
So your work is related to helping people see their successes. Where does that come from, that passion?
That passion comes from a very young age.
Yeah.
You know, when you're young, and when I'm saying young, you're growing up and people ask you, what do you want to become one day? And I never knew what I wanted to become. And my mom kept saying to me, Carol, you have to work with people because you care, you talk to people. We would go shopping as a youngster, and my mom would sometimes say to me, Carol, please stay at home. And I'll go, why? She says, no, you'll end up wasting so much of my time because I'm looking for you because you're talking to people. Wow. And, you know, growing up as well, people were saying, you know, it's almost like it's tattooed on your head, come talk to me. But I never knew that I could turn that into any kind of success. You know, the first thing comes to mind is like, become a teacher. And I thought, all that red tape. I'm not a red tape person. I'm a creative, think outside the box person.
Yeah.
You know, don't put me into a routine environment.
Yes.
Anyway, and one day I was in high school and I had to do a talk to the school. And the talk was really about what is it that you think you could do for others? And number one, I didn't want to do it because I didn't think I could do anything for others. And then my mom reminded me, she says, Carol, you're a speaker. You help people. They reach out to you. Use that information. Anyway, so I got up there and I don't even know what I exactly said, but I ended off by saying that I want to see people successful. And my mom was in the audience. And she turned around and she said to me, there's your slogan. There's your line.
Wow.
You want to see people successful. Do you know, I'll tell you a little story. I was in grade 1. And those years, you know, in my Generation X, my mom had all these encyclopedias and all these Bible books and on a bookshelf. And I was so generous that I checked them out one day and I thought, you know, there's some of my friends that don't have those. Wow. So I decided to every day take 2 books in my little suitcase and just hand them out.
Wow.
Until the parents started phoning my mom and saying, are you aware of this?
Wow. Were you stealing?
No, I didn't see it as stealing. I was taking and giving, you know, and that was the giving nature from a young age.
Wow.
And then obviously I had to get them all back, and my mom was saying, you don't just give things away. And my answer was, did I have to ask them for money? Was I supposed to sell them? And she said, you just don't get the idea. So basically my whole life is giving, supporting, just showing empathy. So the story was really about giving people that were in need. Why must I have them when nobody reads them? I can give them to others. And I think that's really what's become my philosophy in the work that I do. It's really about addressing a need, you know, guiding people, showing that empathy, and really making sure they are successful, but also making sure that people don't go through the same mistakes I did. So yes, I want to see people successful, because if they're not successful after attending one of my training programs or my coaching sessions, I reflect and I say, well, what could I have done differently?
I see.
And success to me is really, it's not always this major thing. You know, people think success is money. And it's not always the money factor. It's about the happiness. It's about the relationship. It's about becoming an entrepreneur, starting a side hustle. So yes, success is measured, for me, is measured in many, many ways.
Interesting. Speaking of what you're doing now, you are the director of HPD Consultants, International Hardcore Essential Skills Trainer, Leadership and Transformation Facilitator, Coach, and Conference Speaker.
Yep, that sounds like a mouthful.
How do you do all of these things? I've already forgot the first thing I read.
Very carefully. It takes a lot of planning.
Yeah.
First of all, you've got to have the right mindset.
Yeah.
You've got to have the mindset and understand. I need to remind myself constantly why I'm doing this.
Let's perhaps start from where you started.
All right.
Many, many moons ago, when it all started, what was your first employment and how did it go about to where you are today?
You make it sound so far, but it is.
Joking, it's like two years ago, you know?
It is. 1991. Okay,
Yes,
now we're going
yes,
back.
see, now we are back there. Don't even know what is
1991,
happening there.
I ran the Comrades Marathon.
Okay.
All right, those years it was a down run. But before that, I wanted to become a training officer, a trainer, because I studied teaching, and then that wasn't, like I said, the red tape and the stuff. I did that because that was the only name that was given to helping others.
What you were doing.
Anyway, so just before I ran the Comrades Marathon, I was speaking to somebody and I said, I really want to get into the training field because there I can really show my niche, you know, and really start building something for myself. Anyway, ran the Comrades Marathon because I used to be an athlete.
Okay.
And on the way running, just after halfway, suddenly this woman pulled up, didn't know from a bar of soap, pulled up and she started talking to me and I'm thinking, girl, really? We're just over halfway, still many kilometers to go. Yeah. And she said, what do you do? Like, really?
Imagine.
Doesn't matter. and suddenly she was taking my mind off the actual one. And we were talking, what do you do? No, I do that. Okay, I do this, I do that. I work at this company and I'm in the training and HR department. And I was like, Okay.
Now you got my attention.
Now you got my attention.
Yeah.
And every time she went faster, I'd go faster because I thought, okay, this is the hook.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, she obviously was much faster than me. She went, but it just so happened that just in that, let's say those 5 kilometers that we were running
ran
together,
together,
it was almost like this angel was sent. I just wish it was not the Comrades Marathon. Yeah, it could have been just over a cup of coffee or something. But anyway, in that, she gave me her name. She told me the company she works at, and the field, and it was like all the information I needed. I couldn't wait to finish. Because the next day, when I could hardly walk because the muscles were aina, I couldn't wait for this company to open up on Monday so I can phone and find out and whatever. So how did it happen? It happened on a Comrades Marathon, got the info. The following Monday, phoned the HR, spoke to her, and suddenly there was a vacancy. And that's how I became a training officer. And those years, the company used to close for an hour every week where they did internal training. And I became part of developing those training programs. And then I realized I don't just like training it, I actually like the developing.
Okay.
Because it was like, it's more of a free approach, doing the research. Did that for a while, and then in 1996 started HPD Consultants, because I think it's like a lot of people working in corporate today as well, is that, I've got all these skills and it might not always be appreciated where you are. Question, can't I maybe do that as an entrepreneur? Can't I maybe take what I've got, what I'm worth, and start my own thing? And that was the drive. And those years in 1996, it was weird because even in my family, I grew up with the whole plan, the recipe. You find the guy, you get engaged, you get married, you do the house, the kids, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I decided to not follow that recipe. That's why I'm a bit of the wacky child in my family. The eldest, but the wacky one.
Right.
The wild one. So a lot of people were questioning, as a female, how are you going to make this work? And that drove me to say, well,
I'm going to show them.
I'm going to show them. And I've had HPD Consultants running smoothly, successfully ever since. And after starting HPD Consultants, I actually met a guy, got married very quickly, and started 2 businesses with him as well. Okay. One, a promotions company, and the other one was more like, it was called Significant Images. It was about developing and creating signage and embroidery and screen printing, totally different to my line of work. And that actually brought us together, but needless to say, it wasn't a bad marriage, it wasn't a bad man. But then I realized after we sold those businesses for a huge profit, I must say, so that was awesome, I wanted to develop my HPD more. So with a failed relationship or marriage, but successful businesses, in hindsight, I realized that he came along also at the right time. Just like the lady on the Comrades Marathon came like an angel, he came into my life and he really developed my business side.
I see.
So starting my own business, not necessarily having all those skills, but knowing how to train, how to develop programs. And he was in my life for that. And it sounds sad for a lot of people, but I think that's what often happens in life is people come your way and they don't always stay forever.
Yeah. They
So
come for a specific purpose.
They come for a purpose. And there's so many opportunities out there, and I think that's what's been my success as well, is collaborating with the people that can create that purpose, being open to different relationships. And then once again, just learning from people. I'm a student of life. I'm constantly learning. So I know I took it really far back, but that's basically...
But it's interesting how you took it.
Yeah.
Because, all right, HPD, for those who don't know what HPD is, what is HPD?
Human Potential Development.
Cool. So when you started that in 1996, you moved with it alone.
Yes.
And then you met this guy.
Yes.
how long after you started the HPD did you come into the picture? And when you started the two other businesses, was HPD not distracted?
Not necessarily. See, it was in a sense, because remember I came from a training background where I was not the manager, I wasn't the leader, I wasn't the business owner. So HPD literally started with, I want to train, I want to make people successful, I want them to come talk to me, there we go. But what I didn't realize that such, I had no business skills.
Yeah.
And so in hindsight, it was actually interesting. Yes, I was divided at one stage, but I actually at that time realized, but if I don't have the business side of things and we don't have people employed that I'm responsible for, I'm accountable for, delegating the whole leadership thing, I would not be able to do my leadership programs the way I did. So after those businesses, literally leadership became a big topic for me because I had then been through the process. And in 1996, I was quite young. In your 20s. I thought I was the bee's knees, running all these businesses and things. But it had to happen for me to learn that side of the corporate world or the private sector.
I see.
So after that, it was a couple of years after that, I think it was about 10 years after that, literally, that's when I went my own thing again.
Then you went back and focused fully on HPD.
Fully on HPD.
And with now the absence of your previous partner, how did the transitioning from being with someone to help you collaborate in this business and seeing them successful, now going to you being alone and seeing your own business successful, was that difficult and how was that experience? And the reason I'm asking this is because you've got many people, or many women in particular, who perhaps are working with their husbands.
Yes.
In particular businesses, fields, whatever. And then the marriage doesn't work out. Now they have to restart all over again. And they find it extra difficult.
I found it difficult too.
Yeah.
Because you see, let me take this step back. And I want to say for the woman out there that could be going through the same thing, is that the first thing that hit me was failed marriage. And at that time, it was very scary. It was scary to tell my family. In my family, I was seen as like the head girl. Carol was this athlete. Carol was this head girl. Carol did all that. And it was, I think that's why it took me so long to make that decision. I had this fear that people were going to treat me as the divorced woman in business. So I actually extended it after realizing after a couple of years that, this is, it's working on a business level, but it's not working on a personal level. So for women out there to take that step, and I think to change the whole mindset, it doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It just means that was a phase in your life that you had to go through. The good, the bad, the ugly, to get to where you are now. And also that fear of what other people are going to say. And I had to learn at that stage that it wasn't about other people. Because my question, but it took me a while. I don't know how long, but it took me a while to get to what I'm saying now is that, you know what, the question is, whose life are you living? And people also tend to have this self-limiting belief that I can only be good if I'm if I stay in the marriage, because it's safer. You don't get targeted, you don't get gossiped about. So yes, I probably took too many years to get to the decision to say, listen, yes, this is not working on a personal level. Maybe in hindsight, I could have said, well, is there a way we can continue with the businesses, on that side, because we were better business partners. But took the plunge, did it. And you know what was amazing was my parents actually turned around and said, but Carol, we knew from a long time ago, we knew your relationship, your marriage is business. But they never told me.
Wow.
And I think that was the thing, you know, I want to live up to somebody else's expectations.
Yes.
And that hit me hard when I, you know, like had to get the right moment, tell them this, whatever. And they were like, don't worry. We actually suspected, we knew. And I think that's what a lot of women should also do is, you know, whatever you're feeling, what you're thinking, speak to people. Speak to those people that you dread telling them that, you know what, it's not working. Don't see it as a failure. See it as a phase that you went through.
Wow.
Take the learning points from it. And that's what I did. I took the learning points, which was business skills, and I plunged it into HPD consultants. Now I had the two caps. I had the business skills, but I also had the passion of why I started HPD. The human potential development, because I believe every human has the potential to develop if they know where. And that's where I come in, to create that success for them.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of tears and things, but I just think if I spoke up earlier, not delayed it, but I'm not sorry, because it has helped me. And then I just grew, and my customer base grew, because I think the relief of not trying to pretend sometimes, you know, I could take that energy and funnel it into what I liked.
Right thing. Wow.
And yeah, I've always been this businesswoman now. I love what I do.
Speaking of which, now you're talking about the element of freedom that you got for not living under this shadow of this person in marriage, this person who's looking good in the eyes of people, but
Yes.
inside knowing that I'm not living their life. Which gives me a sense of, at that time, perhaps you had lost your identity. What did you then do to regain your identity? And you know, from the fear of what people are going to say
Yes.
from this failed marriage, this what, all this information, what your mind was telling you to
Yeah.
be scared and stay in one place. How did you say, snap it, I'm going out, and how did you eventually get your identity back?
That is very important. How did I get the identity back?
Yes.
The identity, well, I think you realize now I like to reflect. All right, so I always say one step back.
Yeah.
Because the identity that had been created for me, and I think that's what society did. Remember, also, I'm talking a number of years ago. It's not as freely now that you hear people say, oh, I'm divorcing. And it's almost like, oh, sorry, okay, move on kind of thing.
Next.
It has a different, I think people have got used to the fact that those things happen.
They
But
happen.
those years, I created my own identity based on what society said. I'm now a divorced woman. I took on that role, and that was wrong. So now I thought, okay, being this divorced woman, now I'm going to train people on relationships. Now, how does that work? It can't work because you had a failed marriage and you want to tell me how to run my relationship, whether it's at work or personal. And it was that snapped me out of it, saying, you know what, you're not a title. You're not a title at all. Doesn't matter what society says. And that the shift was, but okay, what can I use as the failed marriage or the divorced woman as learning points in my business? And I had to really start rethinking about business, rethinking about how to put content together, rethinking about who is Carol. Not the stigma, not the other things that people, what I thought people were thinking.
Yeah.
And once again, I think that is the biggest problem, is that we think people think you're the divorced woman, but we don't really ask, where's the evidence?
Yes. Wow.
So sometimes, and that's what I also had to learn, and I had to use that in my training programs where people were saying, yes, but I'm labeled as this and that, and I said, show me the evidence.
Wow. I
And
love
they would
that.
like say, well, what do you mean? And I go, show me
I love that.
the evidence of when it happened, who said what, where are the facts? And that became that snap out of it kind of thing, is that if I did not realize that I didn't have evidence. I assumed. I couldn't get it through to people. And that became one of my big success stories where people were saying, oh no, we got on Carol's training program. And she's going to say, where's the evidence? Where's the Because a lot plays on in our heads.
Yeah.
And it's like you plant that seed and it just grows and somebody looks at you funny and you're like, you see, there it is.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, and that I still carry out throughout all my training and my coaching that I do, is that get rid of those self-limiting beliefs that we create for ourselves, and go and look and say, what evidence do you have that people are saying, oh, thinking that? And that's where my communication skills comes in, to say, how do I approach that to find evidence if I'm so sure it's happening? So it's really a miracle. It's really about a lot of the stuff I still do up until today, is that I had to go through those things. And therefore, for people out there as well, is that I hear people say, yeah, but I had these obstacles. It's almost like I have this journey planned and now the potholes are in the way. And I'm going, but the potholes are good. Because the potholes learn that there's something that's not working that has to be resurfaced. You've got to identify, re-look, or also go and find the root cause before you can actually heal it to move to the next destination.
Wow.
So potholes are good, not with the car, but in life.
Wow. So it's really interesting how you talk about finding the root cause of whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
Because I recently on my channel this year, I've been talking about a lot of my personal experiences, where I come from, where I developed certain things about me today. And the other thing was the fear.
Oh, yeah.
Fear element. I decided to go back into digging, where does my fear come from? And I remembered this one incident where I stole my mother's car, small Kumbi. I stole a small Kumbi, my mother's small Kumbi. I was home alone.
Yeah.
Took the keys, got into the car. It ended as a mess. I bumped onto the garage, the wall fell down, and it was a mess. And that's when I realized, over a lot of years to date, that my fear comes from that situation where I once made a wrong decision. Now, when it's time for me to make a decision, I would be scared. What if I make another wrong decision? And I never realized where that came from until I decided to dig and find the root cause. Absolutely. And now you are talking about the root cause, which shows in your courses, do you have anything that helps people go deeper into what they've been through in their lives to come and change? How do your courses play out?
Oh, first of all, when you said you took your mother's car or combi, I already saw this picture played out. Why? Because
saw the end.
Because that's exactly where fear comes from.
Yeah.
Is that we did something wrong, and doing something wrong, we forget we were how old.
Yeah.
You know, but it's still fresh in our mind. We don't know it, but it's there. It haunts us. Exactly. So every one of us has got this fear of something, fear of whatever, and it really starts from a bad situation. So what I do in my training programs, even in my coaching programs, what I do is we love to follow the 5 why principle. I love the 5 why principle, and it's really about, people often look at what is your fear. My fear, I have a fear of making decisions. Now what happens is they want to solve the problem. But the fear of making a decision, like in your case, that is just a symptom of something in the past. So the first question that a person needs to ask is that the problem seems to be making decisions.
Yeah.
Why? And you work it backwards. Why do I have a fear of making decisions? If I ask you now, let's play it out.
Yeah.
Why do you have a fear of making decisions?
I'm scared it's going to go bad.
Why are you scared it's going to go bad?
Because then people will judge me.
So why do you have a problem with people judging you?
I don't want to look bad in front of people.
Because it leads to me feeling incompetent.
Ooh.
You see, now that's what I do in my training. When people get stuck, exactly, just plan it out. Because what am I doing? I'm throwing you a curveball. You're not prepared for it. It's coming from somewhere. But then suddenly you realize that after the second why I asked you is like, oh damn, we're digging deeper. I'm not sure where this is going.
Yeah, that's how it felt.
And that's why I was watching your body language and you were like, yeah. And that's where my coaching comes in. Say, okay, let's take it further. Because I can almost sense what you're feeling. You just don't know how to put it into those words. You don't want to be seen as competent. Why? Why don't you want to see? You don't want people to think that you're stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, when you took that car, Mom probably said, what a stupid thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. She wanted to bury me alive.
Of course.
Yeah.
How could you be so stupid? What was going through your
going through your
mind?
mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Parents often use that because it's part of their anger as well, their personality. Things go wrong, and it's the words that they sometimes use that you can't always remember directly, but it was based on that feeling of they made you feel guilt.
Yeah.
So now that we get to a root cause of you don't want to feel stupid, or feeling stupid makes you feel guilty, or there's still guilt, or whatever the case, or, you know, that fear of looking incompetent, you know? Then we say, okay, right, now let's work on that issue. Because not making decisions is just sort of like, you know, that's just, if you take an onion, it's just the outer skin.
Yeah.
And the 5 whys, and it's called 5 whys, but you can have 3 and have the answer. You can go back 10 and it's got the answer. So it's like peeling away those layers, and for some people it's painful. Just like peeling that onion, you know. But for others, it is it's such a relief. So it's one of the small techniques I use, but it has a major impact.
I see.
You cannot begin to solve something or even brainstorm or look at solutions if you're not sure exactly what is that root cause.
I love that.
And once you know the root cause, then you start looking and saying, okay, where's it coming from? And Miracle, I think, like in your case as well, you love doing presentations.
Yeah.
All right? Talking for a living. I always say I have the best job.
Yes.
I'm a female, love to talk, and I get paid to talk. But
how convenient.
in my presentation skills courses, I've often had people that when I ask the question, what do you fear about speaking to others, whether it's virtually now or on a stage or just in a meeting. And the first thing that often comes, I would say about 90% of the time, is where people say, you know what, I was embarrassed at school because I said something and my friends laughed at me. And you're like, okay, when did that happen? Are those friends still around? Do they even remember you? So for them, it was a moment, another learner got up, did their talk, and you were old news. Yet for how many years have you carried this baggage?
Imagine.
And you know what, just opening up that for people to realize, they were, really? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's very much finding root causes before you can actually move on. And my favorite topic is really about how do I turn anxiety into clarity?
Okay.
By using effective communication. Whether it is presentations anxiety, whether it is business writing anxiety. In fact, I'm doing a workshop tomorrow, which is virtual business and report writing. Because people have a fear to put stuff on paper as well. Yes. And sometimes they're not sure what they do, and they put it on there as if they're writing to themselves.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what they're on about, and they've wasted how much time to put a report together that just doesn't get read. So whether it is in presentations, whether it is in report writing or business writing, whether people are anxious about a colleague that they need to communicate with, whether it is a leader that needs to reach out to his or her team. So I really focus on turning that anxious into clarity by using effective communication. And of course, all the courses I've done in the past, whether it was change management, whether it was leadership skills, whether it was performance management, whether it was stress, dealing with stress, all those training programs that I presented in the past, a lot of that knowledge still comes out because it's part of communicating at the right level, with the right people, with the right approach.
Wow. That is so deep. That is so deep. I'm getting so changed right now.
It's exciting.
I'm getting so changed right now. So, all right, I'm sure by now people are asking, where are these courses? Where are these courses? So please just release them. Tell them where to find this stuff so we can continue to the next thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super duper. So, personal identity, I just want to go back to that as well.
Okay.
You see, I keep taking you back.
I love that.
Taking you back.
The whys, the 5 whys.
The 5 whys, yeah. But
see.
also personal identity, we spoke about personal identity those years where I had to talk about evidence, give me the evidence and things. But personal identity nowadays become quite a huge topic. So my personal identity has changed over the years, and especially over the last 2 years, where I was seen as this international, hardcore, essential skills trainer, coach, leadership trainer, coach. And only recently, with the help of one of my coaches, did I realize, no, I can combine all of that, and the new identity that I'll be marketing now, which is very exciting for me because it's like new, is Clarity with Carol.
Okay, I love
Just
that.
like we have Miracle Perspective, mine is Clarity with Carol.
I love that.
And so I'm busy with a new marketing strategy, which I'm going to be putting on social media.
Okay.
But with that, I'm also putting a boot camp together for turning anxious into clarity with effective communication. So it's a whole thing. So all that stuff is in progress. That's all I want to say now. But on social media, you can find me on HPD Consultants or Carol Potgieter on Facebook. On LinkedIn, just search Carol Potgieter as well.
All right.
And that's where I'll be found. But my email address, and I love the email address because it's just, I can connect with people on an individual level or WhatsApp. But info@hpdonline.co.za, and I always make a point of getting back to people because I love that style. So it must be a little bit of the Generation X in me that still likes to go that way, but it works for me and it's worked.
I love it.
So, and a lot of my training programs I also offer on my social media, but I'm also redoing the website to make sure that all the info, all the training programs around anxious into clarity is on there.
Make sure you share those information with me.
I
so
will
that
do
when
that.
it's done, I can share it with everyone who will be looking forward to getting that.
That'll be awesome.
Now moving into the nicer and exciting things. You are very fond of my generation.
Yes, I am.
Why?
Because I always say I was born in the wrong generation. Remember I told you I'm my wacky, wild, the eldest child of 4. And even today, my mom will say to me, Carol, when are you going to grow up? And I'm going, but what's that? You know, I don't fit the norm of the old recipe.
Yeah.
So I love working with the younger generation because I have a passion for them. And I think it comes from, I have a Laatlam brother. I was a matric, grade 12, matric when he was born. And at first I didn't like that because in matric you have this image to uphold, you know, and you don't want your friends to know what mom and dad are doing because in matric you sort of think they're too old to do the family thing, you know. You rather avoid that. And now mom being pregnant and here comes this little baby brother, I was embarrassed and thinking, oh, what are my friends going to say? Anyway, once they met my little brother, that was just it. He just became the focus. But having this younger brother, who is now early 30s, having this younger brother, I sort of saw him grow up. And it's interesting that him and I are the closest. I'm the eldest, he's the youngest. We differ many years, but yet we talk the same language. We have a very similar mindset when it comes to business and, you know, whatever you do. We have that positive outlook. And from a young age, I mean, he used to come and stay by me for holidays because, after matric, I went to study and he was still in the house. But he used to come stay with me and we used to have a jaw. And he liked staying with me because it was like the older sister, but he always used to say to me, "You are cool." And I think that is what I also describe myself as. I like being cool.
Yeah.
Later years, when the whole WhatsApp language came out, he said to me one day, he said, "Carol, you're my elder sister, but you're sick." And I'm like, "What do you mean sick?" You know? And he's going, no, it's the WhatsApp language.
Yeah.
Sick means cool. And I was like, I need to stay with this language.
Yeah.
So yes, just seeing him grow up, progress, his thought process. I mean, I'm not generalizing, not everyone's like him, but also mixing with his friends from a young age. So I think I was born two generations too early. Because my generation sometimes bore me. No, I'm sorry. They don't bore me. They don't bore me at all.
Let's hope they didn't hear that. Didn't hear that.
No, you didn't hear that. No, they don't bore me.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
And I like your generation is because you're still open to so many new ways of doing things. And I don't like a routine. Remember I said out the box.
Yeah.
And I learn from the younger generation.
Yeah.
And remember earlier I said I'm a student of life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean I don't learn from people my generation. Of course, I learn from all generations.
Yeah.
But I just have this passion to see people, aspiring leaders, being part of that development. I am involved with some organizations where they've got management trainees that have just started, and we're taking them through this whole process of the soft skills of potentially becoming a manager, becoming a leader. And it's just so inspiring working with them because I think it's also they challenge. And I think I like that, is that it's not just agreeing. And when they challenge, they get me thinking. And I love that kind of interaction.
I see. The problem with our generation, we are confused. We are confused. Like, we don't know what's happening. We don't know where we're going. We're just going. And I don't know what's going to save us, because when you check social media, nobody is trying to do anything to find their direction. But we are going.
We're going.
We're following something. What can you say about, you've got this program, Quarter Life Crisis.
Yes. Yes.
How can that solve our problem? Because I definitely do believe that we're in a crisis.
I think also Miracle Person needs to say, yes, you're in a crisis. And the course that we do, the webinar, I actually do it with my colleague, Tony Wachira from Kenya. So we have the South Africa-Kenya collaboration. He's younger than me. I'm a bit older. And we really have this great diversity. But when we did our research, we actually realized once again what happened to me years ago, thinking society boxed me as this divorced woman. I think that's exactly what's happening now as well.
Definitely.
Is that the younger generation, your generation, is so used to people saying we don't understand you that I think you've just used the word. That's why I was laughing. Is that we're confused, and I think it's got nothing to do with being confused. I think that's the way it's been labeled.
Okay.
So the minute a person gets labeled, you start thinking that way, and that's when things just unravel. So with our quarter life crisis is real, we look at the word real. The R is we show reality, the real life examples of a quarter life crisis. And for those of you that are not 100% sure about the quarter life crisis, normally it's the 20 somethings. But in recent years, it can actually start from 18 and go right up to 35. All right. So you've heard of midlife crisis. All right. Midlife crisis, you get halfway, you're like 45 and you think, what have I done with my life? I need to start changing things, and that's it. A quarter life crisis is when you go through it when you are younger. But most people don't even know they're in that crisis. In hindsight, I was in that quarter life crisis when I started the business. I was in my 20s and met the partner, got married, but not necessarily for the right reasons. And I didn't realize until I did the research that that's probably one of the reasons why the marriage didn't work.
Okay.
Because I went into it very blindly. Why? Because also I've started the business, but the pressure when you're getting married, why? Because you've got to follow the recipe. If you don't follow the recipe, you're not successful. And doing the research, there was also that aha moment saying, I didn't realize that I was going through that quarter life crisis.
Wow.
And I looked at that and I was like, wow, a quarter life crisis is described as having that crisis, that anxiety of where my life is going. The problem is nowadays why the younger generation feels confused is because there is no new recipe for them. So if you have a look, I mentioned it earlier, Generation X and boomers, it was easy. All right, you go to school, you study, because you have to study, to get a job, you meet the life partner, you get engaged, you get married,
You get kids.
get the house,
Yeah.
get the kids, and then you get the grandkids. And you just
You
stick to the
retire.
same job. And if you get a certificate or a gold watch or something for being 50 years at a company, wow, that was success. I know I'm generalizing. It's not necessarily a recipe was for all. But let's take more or
The
less.
majority, yeah.
That was it. So the question, Miracle, is, that was the old recipe. What's the new recipe? And that's the thing.
Wow.
There is no recipe. So when the younger generation decides they don't want to study, parents are often, they get panicky. No, but you have to, because you have to put something behind your name. How are you going to have a family, care for a family if you don't have this? Or, no, I'm not going to study, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. But you can't become an entrepreneur, you've got no skills. Well, you know, kind of thing. So I think it is the panic and anxiety maybe of a lot of parents or teachers, you know, senior people that are involved with that 20-something's life. I think they panic more, and that's the confusion. So what Tony and I do, we go and we talk about it's real. The R is, where's the reality that proves it's real? And one of the things is that we look at real examples. But we also look at people that have been hugely successful. They didn't follow the recipe.
Yeah.
So there's two realities to it.
Yeah.
All right. Then we look at like evidence in terms of, that's the E for real, the evidence in terms of what role social media plays. But more important, what other people are doing to make their life look so glamorous. And now we start competing. Oh, they seem to have it all, they've got it together. Why haven't I got it together? And now it becomes that, you know what? Now I need to start doing something. The more I put pressure on myself, I'm competing, but I don't really know what I'm competing about. Because I don't really want to be them. But then what do I want to be?
The Miracle Perspective, showing you the person you are meant to be. It's finished.